This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Sal and JoAnn Talkcast show. We're getting popular, so we thought we'd just keep on doing this. I'm JoAnn Forrester, also known as the Empress of Biz. I have nicknamed my friend Sal Acosta the um, Sal the Duke of Biz. How about that? Or you can give yourself a new name, but that's what I'm going to be calling you.
Oh my
Uh,
God, John Cleese probably rolling over in his grave right now, but that's okay.
One of the things that we like to do is feature business owners as they start and as they grow their business. And it's often a learning curve. Now, between Sal and I, we have over 60 years of experience. We've done that. We've made mistakes. We have suffered through technology change. In fact, we just did a show last week on is it harder to start business today than it was? And our conclusion was mixed. But I am delighted that we have two friends of Sal, who is Sal. Would you like to introduce our guest, please?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Joanne. So we have Rebecca Ahmed and Natalie Iannone. They're both from a company called Turn It On. And actually, I won't even try to take a stab at describing what they do. So, Natalie, why don't you maybe kick us off and just introduce real quick what Turn It On does, and maybe talk a little bit about the people you work with, a typical client.
Yeah, so we work with individuals and organizations. We also do speaking engagements and retreats. The people that we work with are typically driven individuals and organizations that are looking to, I guess, escalate their business a little bit. Looking at branding and culture within the organizations and communication from an individual standpoint, people that are typically going through some type of transition in their life, whether it be work, whether it be career changes, divorce, so on. We partner with them to really move through any type of limitations that are going on. We provide tools and understanding of basically the bigger picture, the clarity, and then put action plans to just enforce their way forward. Rebecca, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so we kind of take different angles. So when Natalie works with organizations, she'll focus a lot on the culture, the communication pieces that are much more structured. I like to talk a lot more about the taboo topics. So what's holding back an executive, what's holding back an organization that's personal, and how are they bringing in that into the workforce, and really providing them some of that clarity through the transition. So when they are at work, they're able to focus on what they really want to accomplish. So it's nice because we piggyback on focus on different areas.
Um, Either Natalie or Rebecca, how'd you get the name for your company?
Do you want to share your? Okay, so I was just completing Landmark's advanced course, and if you haven't heard of Landmark, they have an entire curriculum for living that I've completed. And I called Natalie because she had called me after we had closed up Pinnacle. So Pinnacle Entertainment had 17 hotels and casinos. We were both part of the M&A in various capacities. I was at corporate office, so it's a $2.8 billion M&A that I'm overseeing in human resources. And when she called me, I was in St. Bart's celebrating. I'm like, I'm done. Like, we're done. Like, thank goodness. And she's like, I'm going to launch this coaching business. And I told her I'm happy to help in any way, but I will circle back with her when I'm done partying in St. Bart's and get my life together again. And so I called her when I was in DC because I just moved there. And I said, tell me about your business. What are you doing? And she asked me just the most amazing question, said, when is the last time you were turned on? Because I told her I wasn't really excited about going back into corporate America and human resources. And that question just spurred a lot of conversation about what does it mean to be turned on at work, turned on at the gym, turned on at your life in your family home, turned on, in the bedroom, every single aspect of what does it mean to be living a life turned on. And as we started talking about, we said, well, I actually asked her, I was like, can I be part of your business? Because this is so exciting. And why don't we turn it on? And that's how we launched the business and did the name.
Okay, so
let me ask you a question.
Looking for a way to escape what you were doing to have more fun?
What was that?
I said you were both looking for a situation to, I call it escape from what you were doing, to having more fun and more passion in what you were doing.
Well, and that's a great key word there, is passion, because, both of us have such strong backgrounds in the corporate environment and with very specific niches, I guess you could say. And then in addition to that, being able to coach and mentor others was kind of like everything in a nutshell. And then being able to do it in a way to inspire and motivate and recognize that if your life is not turned on in one aspect, it likely is not turned on in another and in another and in another. So it's really about when you start working with individuals and organizations to turn their life on in a robust way. That's really where it came from. So yes, a piece of it is for us to be able to have freedom and joy when we're doing it, but also, our mission is really to allow everybody that we come in contact with to have that same drive to live a life fully turned on.
Let me ask you a quick question, because a lot of the people that watch the show are small businesses, entrepreneurs, sometimes solopreneurs. But anyway, I happen to know that Rebecca, you're in DC, and Natalie, you're in Pittsburgh, and you're starting out. You can tell me how long you've been on this project, but has it been hard because of the geographic separation, or has it been easy because of the technology? And if somebody was going to start a sort of a service, sort of high-tech model, would you say, hey, it's okay to be geographically separate, or no, be careful because this is one more challenge that you need to add on top of everything else?
I would say both. One of the things that Natalie and I did as business partners is a lot of different assessments. So I recommend any organization or any business partners or anyone starting out a business, whoever you're going to be working with, whether it's your vendors, whether it's a supplier, whether it's a business partner, do assessments. So we did our love language assessment. We did ELI assessments. We did values assessment. So then you can understand, how do each other communicate? What do each other's value? And then you're making sure you're respecting each other's decisions. And we learned a lot about each other. And I would say it is challenging. We're not in the physical same spot, and we make sure to, Natalie comes here usually every few months. But we noticed when she had to move from Louisiana to Pittsburgh and we weren't able to connect as often, you start missing each other. You start not connecting because you're not in groove with each other. But those assessments are really what allows you to formulate your words and have fierce conversations with each other to make sure you're honoring each other and respecting each other, and you're moving the business forward.
Yeah. And to piggyback on what she was saying, in addition to that, we hired a coach. We walk the same talk. We do the same thing that we do with other, what we anticipate others doing, we do the same. So we hired a coach. She helped us with drawing clarity around what is the lacking part. When you're totally in separate states from each other, just like Rebecca said, there's an opportunity where you either miss each other or you feel completely disconnected. We're so fortunate in this day and age to have technology. But to Rebecca's point, if you don't have assessments, or you're not, and this is something that we work with individuals or corporations with, if you're not sinking in what matters most to you and understanding that, you're not going to be able to honor anything anyway. We could be sitting next to each other all day long and have no clue how each other thinks or operates because we didn't in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you two get together periodically in person?
We do. So she was just here in October and then also in September. And then we're only 3.5 hour drive from each other. So it's not far, which is easy. And then as we do retreats, we're going to be, obviously seeing each other more there. But I would say every few months is kind of what we've really set on. And, if I get a hit and I really need Natalie, or just like getting that sadness, I could always hop in a car and go to her, which is what we're lucky about. But it's been every few months, which has been really nice.
Yeah. And we also meet 3 times a week. So it's very important to us. And that's another comment that I would share with anybody. If you're not living near each other, sending emails, sending text messages, that goes so far. Let's face it, context can be taken so differently than just hopping on the phone with one another. And so for us, because we're involved in so many different things, there's challenges at times for us to be able to connect. So we set some ground rules for ourselves to be able to say, look, at least 3 times a week we have to connect, whether it's personal, whether it's work related, whatever it is, 3 times a week we have to be able to stay connected.
And I'll piggyback on that. I just went to the Mindset Retreat, and it is with Fabienne Fredrickson. She's a phenomenal business coach, and she is now partnering with her husband. And she said she had her business first for 10 years, so they're in the same room together all the time. But she talked about, tips and tricks that you can do when you have a business partner. And what they found, and Natalie and I had talked about it, is because we do enjoy having those personal elements. I want to hear about our kids. She wants to hear about my crazy love life. So when we're talking those types of things, let's keep it to our cell phones and text messages. But when it's business, let's make sure we're communicating via email, and then we do Skype calls. So kind of creating different paths and lanes of if we're going to be talking about personal, happy things or sad things, whatever that is, but on a personal level versus a business level. So we have 2 different lanes. And I really love that takeaway from Fabienne, because I do know sometimes when you're having this creative moment, and if I send her a text message and I know she's with her family, I don't mean for her to immediately respond. So now it's easy to say, okay, it's in her inbox and she'll get to it when she gets to it. It's not that it needs an immediate response.
Yeah, key word for anyone that we would share that information with is boundaries, setting up your boundaries and understanding what those are. I mean, Rebecca and I are fortunate enough to actually have a wonderful personal relationship. Not all business partners have that. They may be looking at things very strategic and only business planning. We're fortunate to have more than that with each other. But to keep that, you have to set boundaries. You have to be able to have boundaries for yourself. So that's good.
Yeah, her husband doesn't like it when I step into family. When I have an opinion about how the kids should go to school, I probably should.
Well, let me ask you a question, by the way, just to maybe tack off to the side on that, because you do have a lot of business coaching, and you're interfacing very directly with a lot of professionals, a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs. And from my personal experience, and I'm sure JoAnn can say the same thing, sometimes they're very demanding, they're very aggressive, they're very into their work, some of them are workaholics. So long story short, how do you set boundaries with your clients? Or do you? And I'm assuming you do. And if you do, how? And without getting them upset and losing a client.
Well, I mean, I would say we are more boundaryless because our programs, they're monthly. So we do meet 3 times a month with our clients. However, they have access to us via text and via email. And then if they need us to hop on a call, so we respond and say, and actually in our coaching agreement, we explain that we will respond within 24 hours. I mean, both of us respond usually quite quickly, but we've built that relationship of trust and boundaries from the beginning by going over the coaching agreement. So they know if they send a text message, I'll respond and say, hey, I'm in another meeting, or I'll have to get back to you tonight. Let's schedule a call to talk about this. Because one of the things for both of us is if a client is going through something, especially because usually they're going through a transition and they need to have a fierce conversation, or they're at work and something comes up, we want to be there to be able, even if it's a quick call, to get on and celebrate with them or pump them up or go through anything. We want to be able to have that access and allow them to know that they're not disrespecting us by reaching out. So I would say we have more of a boundaryless approach in that sense. Natalie, you can chime in on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we do with our individual clients, or even if we're working in group coaching settings. When we're going into organizations, and Sal, I don't know if we'll kind of hit on both of those. So the coaching aspect, where it comes to individuals or groups, that's our take on it. When it comes to organizations, I think the biggest thing, 2 things. The biggest thing is you have to be able to, whenever we go into an organization, if we're not meeting with the key influencers of that organization, it will be null. You will end up finding yourself running circles and trying to meet everybody's expectations, and it's just not long term. It doesn't work well because your credibility could be shifted, and as well as the company not getting the expectations that they want. So I think, and so the second part of that is getting very clear on the expectations up front. So if you have a standard of what you do, and I don't mean to sound like very like line in the sand, because the line in the sand, you can kind of dust it every now and then and cross the line. But I think it's really important that you get a clear understanding of what the expectations are from the organization, as well as what you're able to offer. So for instance, if Rebecca and I, when we're working with multiple individual clients, and that we're working through their time frames, you want to make sure that you can schedule appropriately whatever fits the best in the best space for that organization. And it typically works out very well when you're in an organization and doing the coaching with individuals. It varies. So, for instance, Rebecca and I, when we're working with individuals, and I'll try to cut this short, it is 3 times a week. In the corporate world or the corporate
3 times a month. A month, not a week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
It's okay.
Thank you. But if we're in an organization, that's not always needed. So if there's specific things that you're coaching towards, you don't necessarily meet every week. Now, if there's goals that they're wanting to meet, then it'll be on a week by week basis. If there's performance or if there's leadership coaching where you've already set action plans available to them, then they will be once a month where you're checking in and you're holding that accountability and you're moving forward. I hope that answers the question in a very long way.
No, thank you.
One of the things that I had the experience of doing, which I shared briefly with you, is the working with a major steel company as one of our major clients when we first started out. And the idea of having everybody involved is a great idea, but usually in a major corporation, at least when we started out, the top thought that they were perfect and the bottom thought they were perfect, and then in the middle, in between, was just trying to survive everybody. So when you work, you're now classified as small business owner, and you've worked for major corporations. What have you found is the biggest difference between you being a small business owner and your position in corporations?
So the way I kind of look at that is depending on, again, this goes back to the expectation of the company that you're going into. So oftentimes when you're kind of wearing the hat of both consultant and coach, you go in, but you can actively be similar to what a team member would be doing. So a leader that would come into the organization and be able to organize specific things, organize specific meetings, and facilitate those things. Other times it's not. You have a set plan of who you're working with, when you're working with them, and it's not always you going into the business. We do a lot of things that are online. We do a lot of phone calls versus sometimes it's not even face-to-face time. It's just simply having phone calls. As long as the platform is set in the beginning, then we kind of navigate it. It's different with every employment or every organization.
I talk about it as kind of a kickoff meeting. So I'm also in commercial real estate with Savills. And one of the things when you first start working with an organization, because we represent tenants, is what does the process look like? So I define the entire process for them. And then based on them looking at that, then we decide who should be involved in the process and when. So if we do that in the very beginning and get buy-in and have a structure, then it's quite easy to say, okay, this is the project manager. This is when legal needs to come in. This is when finance needs to come in. This is when HR needs to come in. And it's very set. And so I can manage that timeline and say, okay, this is when we're going to bring this person in. And they already understand that from the beginning. But when you just have this like, oh, I'll help out, we can't wait, jump in. No, create a bit more structure. And of course, like Natalie says, it's not an exact line in the sand, but when you have that structure, people have a tendency to also understand the expectations up front and know when their part needs to be leveraged.
Let me ask you a question. And I know you're a relatively young company, but still, can you maybe, without naming obviously specific clients, describe sort of your biggest success, right? Like, hey, this is kind of what it looked like before we got involved. This is kind of what it looked like after we got involved. And also, I want to be very careful. I don't want to call it the biggest failure, but maybe the biggest missed opportunity. Like you said, hey, this is a client that kind of looked like this, and we thought we could make it look like this, but maybe something derailed the process and we couldn't get there. So kind of those two situations.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to jumping in regards to organizations or one-on-one clients or both?
Either one.
Okay.
I'll share the one that went down south, down
Okay.
more, just to get the bad juju out the way. No, so I worked with an organization. It was during their startup time. They purchased a brand, and it was wonderful because they were able to get this brand. It was not a large company, so my example of this is not. I mean, a lot of the larger companies that we work with, it's not a big snowball effect because anyway, I won't get started on that. I'll stay on track with this one. So smaller business, they purchased a brand. The challenge was, and we talked about this a little bit before we jumped on our recording, they bought the brand, but they didn't really understand the brand. And it was multiple partnerships that came in. We worked together on putting together the culture that they were anticipating, the values, their mission statement, all of these things. And so there was an action plan that was given because they hired me for one aspect of it, but not to be prolonged, which I will say that I think that was one of the biggest hindrance, but you wanted to be able to set them up for success as much as you could. So anyway, went in, gave them an action plan since I was not going to be following through for the next 6 months with them. And they did not follow it. They did not end up incorporating so there was an implementation that was prompted throughout our conversation that was put into the action plan. They didn't implement correctly. Due to that, the turnover was increased. Due to that, the services that they were giving and the people that were coming in didn't understand or know their culture. They anticipated it being the same brand that they purchased, right? And while you purchase a brand, that doesn't mean that the culture and the things within are not going to change. Well, when you're not communicating that and you're not setting up good implementation throughout your organization, it causes a huge gap. And so the results of that were they did not do the business that they were planning on doing, and they actually ended up selling the company. Not probably within the first year, they ended up selling the company, which was such a shame, So what I would say to anybody that is, hiring someone to come in for consultant, you get action plans there's a reason for those action plans. There's a reason to follow through on some of those because it affects not only the people that are working within the organization, it affects the partnership, it affects the clients that are coming in to receive service from you when you're not clear on those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember that in my steel company.
Yeah. And mine, I would say, because I enjoy working with so many individuals, the wins have been usually around compensation. So I have a passion, I have a background in compensation. I actually got a text message from one of my clients today and negotiated a severance package. What he was sent was absolute crap. He'd been with the organization for almost 10 years and they were like, thank you so much for your service and we've eliminated your position. And we went back and I redlined the shit out of it, to be honest, and sent it back. And he's gotten, a year of compensation. He's gotten his benefits from the organization. He's gotten health benefits as well. He's gotten a letter of recommendation based on his services. So those are big wins for me when someone's able to walk away with a severance package that actually reflects the work that they did, or when they're asking for a promotion. I would say the biggest one I've ever gotten, Sal, is I got a woman, she was going to ask for a $10,000 increase. I ran her market data. We went over her entire pitch and she got a $100,000 increase because that's what she was worth. And that to me, she cried, I cried, it changed her life. She no longer has to, she can outsource a lot of work, her laundry services, things with her children. Like this was a game changer for her in her entire life. And those wins are what makes me so proud is, when you can see a client really step into their greatness and they know what they desire and they're able to express that with clarity and they get it from their employer. That to me is just like, it's such a huge win.
Yeah. And while there's monetary value in that is what we see with so many of our clients, whether it is money that they're hungry for, whether it's going and leaning into their passion. It's just beautiful to see someone just open their mind and their heart and their talents to be able to receive what they're fully capable of doing. And that's, again, going through those limitations. That was a prime example of feeling like they were limited and Rebecca opening the doors and unlocking completely limitless opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's funny. So you want to talk about a downfall is I work with a lot of executive women, so mothers and their daughters, and I work with them separately. And then we do joint sessions when they do want to connect, but usually they're both going through different transitions. And a lot of times the mothers will say, why is my daughter excelling so much? Why is she just flourishing? All these different anxieties that she had or setbacks or feelings have just gone away. And I still have this. And I'm laughing because I'm like, you're in your 50s and you've had 50 years of experience to kind of shape you. And you're choosing to let that shape you as you make decisions, where she's probably 16, 18. And when I give her a concept and we move through that concept, she's like, oh, great. I don't have to wear that coat anymore. I don't have to have that experience. I don't have that judgment anymore. And she flies. And so that's where I see moms really struggle, because they're like, do I really have to give up that thought? I really want to hold on to that grudge. And I'm like, no, you have that choice. And what your daughter's done is she's just said, I no longer have that grudge. I no longer want to hold on to that. So it's really powerful. And that's the pros and cons when you're working with mother daughters, is the moms a lot of times are like, oh, she's flying past me. So that's when I would say the challenge.
The coat of armor that the mom's been wearing for that long is a lot harder to unbuckle than the 18-year-old that's like, I'm free.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Sal, do you have a question?
Yeah, maybe just to put it in perspective, how long have you been in business? Because I know you started fairly recently. Are you progressing to, I'm going to say, maybe not a forecast, or maybe you do have a forecast, your vision, and also more importantly, maybe what is the end goal? I mean, when do you say, okay, we've achieved what we want to achieve? Is it when you become, I don't know, Booz Allen, or you have 10 employees? I mean, what does that end state success look like, and have you defined that?
So we connected with each other because Pinnacle ended or closed in October of 2018. And then Natalie and I connected in January this year, and we soft launched in February. The reason why we did the soft launch, we put up a landing page, hired our coach, is because we already had leaders from Pinnacle reaching out to us and saying, we've worked with you for so long. We hear you're going to go into business. Can we continue our services with you, but on more of a personal level? Or can we have you come in and do some trainings and different pieces like that? So we soft launched in February. We officially launched in July when we had our website done. We had had our 6 months with our coach, put our S Corp together and everything. So it is very new, Sal. You're very right. I would say July was technically our opening, our website for business to the world. And we have different passions, both within Turn It On, and which is what I love, because we're kind of focusing on different areas. So Natalie, I'll let you jump into more of, the coaching focus, and then I'll kind of take the end route on the speaking engagements.
Yeah. So obviously being newer to the area in Pittsburgh, it is an opportunity for me just to be able to start learning and finding more businesses within Pittsburgh. Now, again, I don't work with only Pittsburgh, but if I'm going to the organization, it makes it a little bit easier if you're putting your footprint inside the workplace. As far as one-on-one coaching, it's something that I have a huge passion around. I see what works. I see what happens. I see the clarity that's given and the rewards that come after. So that is something that I'm very passionate about and continue to do. There's no limit to that, simply because that anywhere. So when I came to Pittsburgh, none of my clients were even from Louisiana. Actually, I had one client that was in Louisiana. Other than that, all of my clients were not even in Louisiana. As far as organizations go, I am hoping to get more involved in the Pittsburgh area now that I've moved from Louisiana. And the other thing that, and kind of hit on a little bit earlier, as far as what we're doing in the organization, something that Rebecca and I are both very passionate about is it's an energy leadership assessment. So we go into organizations, they have a 360, and I'm not sure if you're familiar or not with what 360s are, but it's basically an opportunity to really gain clarity around the leadership and team members within the organization. So it's an assessment that they can take, not only them, but their peers, their leaders, and so on. It is a very powerful, powerful tool to be able to see and shift your behaviors and the choice that you have within it. And so there's a lot of coaching that goes around that as well. And something that her and I are both super passionate about, because again, you see the results of it. We work with individuals on that as well. So that's something that we'll continue to pursue. And I know Rebecca's going to talk a little bit about what she's doing, but to answer your question, Sal, and Rebecca can piggyback, as far as where we end with Turn It On, I mean, this is just the beginning. You know, we have like right now, there's like no roof. You know, we look at the fact that, as Rebecca said, we are very different in a lot of ways. Our actions and what we will do is different. She wants to do speaking and speaking opportunities, which I love as well. But my focus is very much on one-on-one coaching and going into organizations. However, we see Turn It On as the same mission, you know, and it is true about others being able to be in a place where they are living a life fully turned on. And so it's wonderful that we have that same drive and that same mission, which means that if we get other people under our organization where they have specific niches to be able to drive that full circle of living a life turned on. I'll let Rebecca talk.
Yeah, so she kind of hinted, you know, we want to grow the organization, so we'll have coaches who focus on various areas, and Natalie will really focus on that because that is her passion, and growing the business and making sure our niches, we have coaches for each solution. Where I really enjoy public speaking, and so I'm, you know, constantly reaching out to organizations, and organizations are reaching out to me. I just did a diversity and inclusion speech this past weekend was She Leads, She Speaks, and looking to grow the business in terms of the influence that we can have to an organization or at a conference, you know. So for instance, with SHRM, you know, you're hitting all these HR organizations kind of in one big hit. And then when they want to go deeper, they come and reach out with our coaches and spend more one-on-one time. So it's leveraging the business in two different ways.
Yeah.
All right, just so you know, we're reaching about the 40-minute mark here. So, I mean, I don't know, JoAnn, if you want to maybe ask one last question or two and then maybe try to wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah. First of all, I think what I'd like to do is make sure everybody has their contact information. Natalie, would you give your contact information?
Yes. So my direct email is natalie@timetoturniton.com. You can reach us on our website as well, www.timetoturniton.com.
Yep, and mine's Rebecca@timetoturniton.com, REBECCA, and we're on social media everywhere, LinkedIn, especially since this is a business webinar. You can't miss Natalie, Iannone, and Rebecca Ahmed on LinkedIn for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you on Facebook and LinkedIn? And
Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we've got it.
okay.
You might have a hard time. I think all my pictures today are going to have my little cat outfit on. So.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I was Princess Jasmine yesterday, so if you don't recognize me today, check tomorrow.
I've got my Halloween socks on. Unfortunately, I can't show you. I think, you know, as wrap up, and I want from all four of us, the question I'd like to ask is, what advice would you have to give to people who are thinking of starting their own business? And Natalie, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah. So what I would say is, if they're starting their own business, it's kind of some of the things that we've already hit on. You know, making sure that you're aligned is number one, especially if you're in partnership. If there's a partnership, you've got to be in alignment with your partnership. If you're not, then you're going to start off being out of whack. And what I mean by alignment is understanding what matters most to you. What are the values that you have? What are the way that your brain works? Rebecca is the left to my right, you know, I mean, so getting an understanding of what that is for you is super important. The other thing that I would say is you got to understand truly what your mission is. You know, Rebecca and I have two different personalities, but we make magic together. And in order for us to do that, if we're not aligned with our mission, it won't work. And I'll tell you, I've seen it time and time again, even with organizations that are doing the work and they're being a successful company. They have high turnover. Their ROI could increase if they just simply got on the same page of what their mission is and implementing it within their organization. So for any new businesses, that's what I would say. That's your foundation to be able to build your house upon.
Rebecca, what about you? What advice do you have?
Yeah, I would say two things. Hire a coach because that's what we do and that's what we did. So we walk our talk. So definitely hire a coach because they've already done this before. They've had success helping other people and they're able to give you so many different perspectives. So you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know, and that's where a coach really helps you. So I would definitely say that's something very, very important. And then I would take a step back and say, is this a hobby or is this a business? Because a business makes money. And if this is a hobby and you're not looking at it as a business, then enjoy your hobby. Don't make it a business because then you're going to hate your hobby if you don't monetize it. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, a business is there to, of course, serve people, to provide a service, but you have to make money in order for it to be a business. If not, it's not a business.
Yeah, that's good.
And what is the best way to contact you, Rebecca?
It's
I never
Rebecca.
hear all that. So that's why I want to hear yours again.
Yep, no problem. I'm Rebecca, Rebecca at timetoturnIton.com. And our website obviously is the same, www.timetoturnIton.com.
Natalie, you want to give yourself another plug there?
Well, what I was going to say is with our website, because we have a direct curious at timetoturnIton.com, you'll be able to connect with both of us. What I would also say is, especially for our gals out there that are watching, we have on our website 5 tips to living a life turn on. Subscribe to our website. You know, there's such good content in it. It will help put you into action on things, shift up your routine that you're currently in. So it's a great guide, a great tool to be able to use. We'll also be putting in new information around career transitioning. We have a values workbook that we'll be adding to our website as well. So stay tuned for that. It's good stuff. And we look forward to hearing from people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Sal, the Duke of Business.
Well, I will tell you, and it's funny enough because I was actually talking with somebody just yesterday about this in a conference. And it's when you start a business, whatever it is, make sure that you've set aside some money to live off of while your business takes off. I've seen a lot of
Amen.
people make the mistake of thinking, hey, I'm going to start this business, and this business is such a great idea, and everybody wants this so much, and I've got so many contacts in the industry, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that I'm going to make money from day one, or I'm going to make money after the first 90 days. Surprisingly, the person that I was talking to yesterday, he wanted a 2-year buffer. And I know that sounds like a lot of time, but I actually commended him for being so realistic. Now, the flip side is he had not started the business and he wasn't going to start it because he didn't have that 2-year buffer. Okay, so, whatever, maybe that's the flip side to that coin. But either way, independent of that, recognize that you'll need some money to live on while your business takes off. Be very realistic about that. Be very sort of feet on the ground about that, and whatever you think it is, maybe double it, and then hopefully you'll be in good shape and you'll have the runway for your business to really take off and flourish and fly like a kite.
And that's a
Absolutely.
good
What's
point.
the best way to contact you?
Oh, Sal.
Yeah, very easy. You can email me at sal459 You can call me on my personal cell phone, area code 484-358-9470. Again, 484-358-9470, and sal459 other than LinkedIn, other than the company website, but just those two go direct to me. So that's if you're listening to this, that's the best way. Just call me.
Yeah, and I'm going to add something that, what I do is work with companies more on the what I would call the structure. If they need money, if they need a business plan, if they need financing, I'm working with them to get them positioned to get financing. One of the things that I see from startups to well established are some common mistakes, which include not having a business plan or having someone write the business plan for you, which is no problem because I do it, but really not knowing what it says. Here, take it to the bank, get me money. And I can guarantee you any banker worth his or her salt is they're going to take my business owner and they're going to put them in the frying pan, so to speak, to really question what they're doing. So that the business plan is basically on who you are, what you're doing, when you're doing it, where you're doing it, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. And it doesn't have, for yourself, it has to be a living, breathing document that when you look at it, you go, aha, that makes sense. And I'm going to actually be working more on, I was thinking about it this morning, and I thought, you know, my W's and my H, you know, the who, what, where, when, how, all that, that makes sense in every aspect of the business. So I think I'm going to be working at developing a workbook around that. The other thing is the best way to contact me by phone, 412-440-6969, 412-440-6969, the Empress of Biz. We have a Facebook page, Empress of Biz, Listen, Learn, Prosper. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know where else I am, but I'm you know, we're around. But I appreciate your time, you know, starting your business and working through the process of obtaining your dream. I really wish you the best, because I've been an entrepreneur over 30 years, and I started when I was 5. Let's just leave it at that. But, you know, I would have never survived corporate. There's just no way. But I like being a small business owner. I like being in charge of my life. And it's risky, but it is definitely worth it. Sal, do you want to say anything as a wrap up?
No, the only thing I want to say is thank you both, Natalie and Rebecca, for being our guests today and for providing, you know, your insights, your background, your experiences to everybody that's going to be watching or listening to this. And appreciate you taking time to come on and do this. And I'm very hopeful that other people that maybe want to follow in your footsteps can take advantage of this information and maybe be a little better prepared as they embark on that hard journey, because I never promise anybody a rose garden. I mean, being an entrepreneur is very hard, it's very risky, it's very demanding, it's very stressful, it's very everything you want to say. So hopefully information like this can, maybe if it doesn't reduce the stress, at least let you go into it a little bit more with eyes open. So thank you for doing that.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, and this is Empress of Biz, JoAnn Forrester, wishing you a prosperous and profitable day. And we're going to be making another show on the scariest things that can happen in your small business. So we hope you tune into us and make it profitable.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.